By the way, I'm still not over how big this book is. Like, I love this so much. Hello, welcome to a YouTube video. I know I haven't been very consistent lately with my channel, but that's because I've been so busy with school and work. But now I finally have a bit more free time, so we're doing the mid-year freakout tag, and it's late, but we're still getting it out there. Sorry about the cicadas and whatever other natural summer noise there is. I am excited. Most of the books I will be talking about today I read digitally, but only 2 of them are physical. So let's get into it. The best book I've read so far in 2023 is Bluets by Maggie Nelson. What a book. It is the only nonfiction book I have read this year. Bluets is sort of a book that's kind of in its own genre. I guess you could call it a personal essay. It's written in numbered stanzas, and it's sort of an exploration on Maggie Nelson's love for the color blue, and just it's almost like a journal. It's about heartbreak, it's about life. I don't know, there's some quotes from it that I just really loved, like just these crushing quotes. And it was surprisingly sexual. I guess I will be talking more about it in a reel and also another video where I talk about books I've read recently, because I haven't been doing monthly reading wrap-ups. I loved it. It was great. Amazing. The best sequel I've read so far. Well, I've only read one series this year so far, which is the Percy Jackson OG series. I was a Percy Jackson girly growing up, so I'm gonna have to give it to the Sea of Monsters. That's not my bookmark, by the way. Also, this is not the prettiest edition, but this was just the cheapest, okay? That's what you gotta do sometimes. If you don't know, Percy Jackson is a series about this middle school boy who discovers he is the son of Poseidon, and then he has to go to this place called Camp Half-Blood where all the other demigod children live, because if you know Greek mythology, you know these gods are just creating offspring with mortals like every other second. So there's all these demigod children in the camp, and they often have to go on these quests and risk their life. Demigod children do not often live very long, but it's just very nostalgic. New release I haven't read but want to is Mrs. S by K. Patrick. It came out in June, and unfortunately I haven't been able to lay my hands on it yet because of the country I live in, and new releases are often expensive, so even if I can get it somewhere else, I usually don't until like a while later, with some exceptions, like if I'm really like so excited and such a big fan. Otherwise I wait, which I am doing. But I actually first saw this book on NetGalley a few months before its release, and I requested it, and I sadly got denied because at that point I hadn't yet read any books on NetGalley or done any reviews. And this was from a big publisher, so obviously they denied my request. But it's also so cool because I didn't even know this was going to be a big release but when I saw it, I was like instantly intrigued because I had been scrolling on NetGalley for so long and a lot of those books did not pique my interest at all, but this one did, immediately. This is actually a debut novel exploring the nature of queer love and attraction. Yeah, so we follow a girl who goes to an elite English boarding school. She meets Mrs. S, the headmaster's wife, and there kind of blooms a relationship. Oh my gosh. Love, seductive and stylish, and explores the queer experience and the force of forbidden love. Oh my gosh. Love! Does that not pique your interest? My most anticipated release for the second half of the year is Rouge by Mona Awad. Obviously, I first read a Mona Awad book in February of last year. It was Bunny, and I loved it so much I finished it in 2 days, which is saying a lot for me because I am a slow reader and often I don't have that much time to read anyways. So I loved it. I even reread it again and wrote a blog post about it. And when I found out that she is going to have another release later this year, I think it's in September, I was so excited. The cover looks so cool too, and it supposedly challenges beauty standards and it explores mother-daughter relationships, and there's also this culty spa in it that really like captures my attention and makes me so excited. It seems like maybe this type of culty thing is what Mona Awad likes to write about, because in Bunny, the bunnies were a cult basically, and they did all these things like turning bunnies into men and doing stuff with them. Yeah, so excited. My biggest disappointment this year was actually The Atlas 6 by Olivie Blake. I talked about this in depth in one of my reading vlogs where I read Eileen and this book. I had been looking forward to this book for so long and I was just utterly disappointed because the premise sounded like it was like so up my alley, the type of book that I would just love. It was dark academia and magical realism. The premise is like, it turns out the Library of Alexandria did not burn down, and it's been kept running by this secret society of members in academia, and they've been passing it down to a new generation every 10 years or something like that. But it turns out their whole ritual of like being selected is pretty damn dark. But the writing in it was just not my cup of tea. It felt very Wattpad-y, and these characters are supposed to be in their late 20s or 30s. But they acted and talked like teenagers. The characterization was just not it. And I felt like a lot of it went into all these random details. I don't know, I expected more atmospheric, vibey stuff, but it was just focusing on something else. I don't know, I was disappointed. Moving on. My biggest surprise of 2023 was actually Big Swiss by Jen Began, just because of the utter chaos and humor in it. I loved it so much. I give it 4 stars. It was just women being crazy, and I don't even know what to say. Like, I just remember having a fun time reading it. It was like a good surprise. I talked more in depth about it in a reading blog as well. Like, I gave updates every few days. You should go watch that if you're interested. My favorite new author, debut or new to me, is Maggie Nelson, I have to say. Just loved her way of writing, the way it touches you in here. New fictional crush. Unfortunately, I do not have one. I don't very often have fictional crushes or IRL crushes, like even less. I don't really read romance. It's not really my thing. So no new fictional crush. Newest fave character is Trip Helmet in Hellbent. If you read Ninth House, you might be like, okay. But if you read Hellbent, you would know absolutely why. And I'm not gonna spoil it in case anyone here has not read this yet, but basically Trip Helmet is a cinnamon roll and must be protected at all costs. By the way, I'm still not over how big this book is. Like, I love this so much. A book that made me cry this year was The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Need I say more? I hopped on this so late. The Song of Achilles peaked like a while ago now. And it's been on my TBR for forever. I actually read Circe first back in 2021. And then when I went back to Taiwan a few months ago, I went to my local library and they had it. And I was like, this is the time. Must read it now. And I loved it. It was a beautiful story. And I have to say, a lot of people hated on either this book or Madeline Miller for writing it because they felt like it was just glorified fan fiction. But personally, I don't think that's very nice. I just think it's so inspiring of Madeline Miller to reimagine Greek myths in a modern way. Like, it's cool. She did it. She wrote a story. It was beautiful. Like, find something else to be mad about. A book that made me happy was also Hellbent by Ninth House. Would I say this was a happy story? No, it's not. But why did it make me happy? Well, because I had been looking forward to this sequel for so long. Also, just look how big the book is. Like I said, I'm just in love. I think I talked about this in my Hellbent reading blog as well. Like, it has been so long since I became such a big fan of something and was so into something, because I often read for escapism, not all the time, but that is the ultimate goal, and this did that for me. The week that I spent reading this was one of the greatest weeks ever. Like, just reading in bed, 100 pages a day. It made me happy. Yeah, that's all. Just a girl and her book and running away from reality. But also, another book that made me happy was Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. That one was just such a cute story, and the story of how it came to be is so inspiring too. I also talked about that in my reading blog. Just a cozy fantasy slice of life kind of thing. Actually, is that slice of life? I think it counts. Very low stakes fantasy. That's what it is. Although I will say the romance in it was very like low-key. Nothing really happened until the end, and I didn't really feel the chemistry, honestly. But that's not what the point of the book was, so I still enjoyed it a lot. The most beautiful book I've bought or received this year. Oh my gosh, this is actually a physical book as well, except she's in the freezer right now. It's Tess of the D'Urbervilles. Is that how you say it? I don't know. By Thomas Hardy. This is a book that I received. A friend very kindly bought it for me at a secondhand bookstore in the UK yeah, she sent it to me. And she's in the freezer because I always put secondhand books in the freezer just in case I'm not looking for an infestation here. I told my friend, like, these are the books I want. If you just get one, that would make my whole year. Like, even just one book would do that. And if the cover is ugly, don't get it. And I was like, I trust your judgment. And she delivered. Like, look at that. It's beautiful. It is a whole vibe. What book do I want to read by the end of the year? Well, there's actually a few, but I think one that makes me the most excited, especially for fall, is Bitterthorn by Kat Dunn. I heard of this book from the book Leo. I have recently been watching a lot of her videos, and she talked about this one, which is like a cozy fantasy that I think I would like. It's very vibey for the fall. It just seems interesting to me. That is all for this video. I hope you enjoyed and got some new fun recs. Hopefully I'll be making a video soon talking about all the books I have recently read. Maybe a reading vlog soon. We shall see. But yeah, thank you for joining me today, and I will see you next time.